Two of you, perhaps all three of you, have mentioned on several occasions tonight that there just isn't enough money for the Sheriff's Department to provide adequate protection and adequate law enforcement in this county. I really don't think that any one of the three of you is going to be able to solve the problem of not having enough money. So perhaps there are other ways. Is it possible, for example, although no one would want or tolerate vigilantes, is it possible to ask or try to recruit a volunteer force or perhaps a minimum wage force that would do some of the other duties when that deputy or sheriff was, for example, in the want program, loaned out to Marshall County or loaned out to Murray State for a specific purpose? Have any of you considered seeking some minimum wage or volunteer persons to fill some of those other duties that you really don't have to be a law enforcement officer to fill?
Well, you would need somebody that was in law enforcement. You wouldn't want to go out here and just pick up anybody and volunteer them to try to do a job, because if they wasn't a deputy, if they hadn't been sworn in, if they wasn't bonded, and something happened, why we could get sued. They tear you up on that, because you just don't go out and get a volunteer to do work like that. They need to be sworn in. Okay.
I'm speaking of some of the duties other than law enforcement.
Well, what other duties now are you talking about other than law enforcement?
Well, you named several. I don't want to get into a discussion with you, Mr. Williams. I just, my question was, is it possible, without seeking a vigilante force or without seeking some amateurs to take care of law enforcement duties, is it possible to get a volunteer force or a minimum wage force?
I suppose it would be possible
to perform some of those other duties while the sheriff or the deputy sheriff is busy in some law enforcement endeavor?
I suppose it would be possible, yes. I imagine it would be.
The only thing that I see, you could hire not a trained employee, just somebody for minimum wage to serve your civil summons and papers that come through, which that is, as JD knows, it's a big problem, is serving all the papers that you get. You could take somebody minimum wage and let them serve these papers. But as far as doing any of the law work, I wouldn't want anybody doing any of that part of it unless they did have some training. I just wouldn't go out here and say you're going to be a deputy and put a gun on you and say you can go out here and start working wrecks and everything else without having, a little training.
It was always my impression you had to be a sworn police officer to serve any paper. And in order to hire a sworn police officer for minimum wage, him be untrained, put him out there with a gun, no, I wouldn't do that at all. If you have a special deputy, you can't pay that man anything. It's got to be voluntary. And it can only have one for every 5,000 population, if I understand it right. But I believe that's one of the problems. You can't just get a layman to go out here and serve papers.
Mr. Rhodes.
We've talked a lot about drugs and alcohol tonight, and I'd like to raise another issue that's related to crime and drugs and alcohol. I hesitate to raise it, but I think it is important, and that's the wet-dry issue. Every 3 years or so, when the wet-dry issue is brought up, the wet forces want to say that if alcohol is allowed to be sold in Murray, the crime is going to go down and it'll make the sheriff's job easier. And the dry forces say that alcohol is going to cause a lot more problems. In which situation, a wet or dry county, do you think that you as sheriff could work more effectively?
Well, I would say the easiest work would be with a dry county, because you're eliminating several problems, not having bars and liquor stores on every corner. And I know we still have the drunks and coming into Murray, but if you had it more available, there'd be more of them. It wouldn't be safe for a woman to walk down the streets or something or go by a bar, I would say, with a dry county.
The wet-dry issue I'm not going to get into personally. I've worked a wet county. I worked McCracken County for 2 years. Not being for or against alcohol, I didn't have no more problems up there then because it was confined to the city, we mainly worked outside the city. Really, it wasn't no more problems then. You catch a drunk driver, he'd be from one of these other counties out in the county most of the time. That's really all I got to say about it.
Well, I'm sure it would be easier for me with the county being dry, because any time that there is alcohol sold, there's more of it going to be drank. The more that's drank, the more problems you're going to have. And so I had rather work a county that is dry, because I'm sure it would be better. It would bound to be better, because you wouldn't have as many problems with a dry county than you would with a wet county.
Mr. Iverson.
As a law enforcement official, you're called on to put your life on the line. You make these arrests, and then we've heard a lot about the revolving door policy. They go through the court system, and before you turn around, they're back on the streets again, and you're out there having to arrest them again. How do you feel about that situation, which seems to exist, where criminals are in and out, and you are responsible for protecting us from them?
We was always told in the state police, when you got them to the courthouse, your job was done. Whatever they did with them, that's their say-so. You don't like it, and it kind of gets under your skin, but it's nothing you can do about it.
I agree with Charles on that. We do what we can do by arresting them, and then we have done our part. It goes to court then through the judge, and whoever who's in the court goes through them, and then what's done there, then that's it. We can't do anything else about it, because we've already done all we can do. We've done our part by arresting them, and that's what we do.
I agree with both of them. It makes the job bad for the sheriff and his deputies, because when I was working as a deputy, I have carried people, prisoners, to LaGrange, and before I'd get my money from the state paid to carry them up there, they would be back on the streets and I have them arrested again. And it's a problem, and I'm not smart enough to tell you how to figure it out or how to do anything about it, but it does make any interested law official mad whenever this happens.
Mr. Hart.
By listening to you three speak, I can tell that the position of sheriff is not an easy one. But what personal attribute do you possess that would make you the prime candidate for this job?
I think that I can work and cooperate with the people of Calloway County, where we will make a safer and a better place to live. And I'm not saying a good place. It's already a good place to live. It is a good place. I love to live here. And I was born and raised in Calloway County, and I want to keep living here. But I think by working with the people, cooperating with the people, and that we can make it, I can make it a safer and better place to live. And I want to continue with the neighborhood watch programs. That is a good program. I want to continue with that. And as like I said before, I would like to get maybe a drug program started.
Yes, the drug program would be a big concern, and also the sheriff's job, and of course, like I say, as deputies too, trained deputies. If you're going to keep the people of Calloway County safe, you're going to have to work lots of extra hours. And I know it comes back to saying an overtime or whatever, but if you take your trained men and the sheriff and get out and patrol the areas and work the main areas, that's where all the crimes is happening, and the main places where the drugs is working, I think you can make a safe Calloway County.
I had over 28 years with the state police, and I worked 24 of them here. I know the people, I know the county. My deputies will know the county. They'll be trained. I think it's about a total of 60, 70 years of training or of police work, combined total of the ones that I have in mind to be deputies. I think we can do the job, and I think I'm qualified to do it. We've had extensive training in crime searches, burglaries, homicide investigations, rape, you name it, we've been trained in it.